Alright, so let me show you how to do it. I'm going to show you supplies to make the album cover, the hinge, and the base pages. The rest of the page add-ons will come later in the video as far as the measurements, or they're listed in the description box. So first let's go with the chipboard. You'll need one piece 7 by 2 1/4 and two pieces 7 by 7. You will need, well, let me start with this. To cover the chipboard album cover, you'll need two pieces 9 by 9 of cardstock. And to cover the spine, you will need a piece of cardstock 9 by 5 1/4. To cover the spine, you'll need one piece 6 15/16 by 5. For the hinge, you'll need one piece 6 3/8 by 8 1/2. And for the base pages, you'll need 4 sheets 6 1/4 by 7 1/4 and 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. So let's go ahead and start by covering the chipboard and making the cover. Alright, to cut the chipboard and cover the chipboard with paper to make the cover, I'm going to use one of these sheets of score tape. This is 8 1/2 by 11. You don't need this, but it makes the job easier. And I'm just simply going to take this and put it down. It did not come out straight, but that is not a big deal. I'm going to grab a blade. The important thing about covering the album cover when you're covering the chipboard is that you don't allow any air pockets, and that's why these score tape sheets are fabulous. If you get air pockets, whatever you put on the cover is not going to look good. So I didn't put it on straight, so I'm going to carve this off. Alright, so I've got the score tape piece on there. And I'm going to burnish it real well. The most important thing about using score tape is to make sure you burnish. Alright, now I'm going to bring in my scoreboard, and I'm going to use it for its straight lines. So I'm going to take one of the 9 by 9 pieces and put it right there. And I have some chipboard shims. These came from Country Craft Creations. No, I'm sorry. These did not come from Country Craft Creations, but you can purchase some ones made out of a good grade of acrylic to use to put your albums together. I'll link the Country Craft Creations website in the description box, and you can go check out acrylic shims. They are in stock now as I'm doing this in the end of June. But you never know. Alright, so the cardstock is against the side and the top. The chipboard is against the side and the top, and they're 1 inch. So now I'm going to simply put this 7 by 7 chipboard on there, and it'll make sure it is right in the center. So I'm going to go ahead and work this one. So I'm going to take a bone folder and just find where the edge is. And make a crease in the paper. And then I will fold this and crease here as well. And then I'll do it for all four sides. You want a crease in the paper for all four sides. Okay, so now you can see that on the four corners you've got four squares. So let's just cut them off. Just try to stay close to the crease. Okay, and then I'm going to fold one of the flaps down, put my scissors up against the chipboard, and just take a sliver off. And then I will turn it over and fold that in and do the same for this side. Then I'm going to take my adhesive, my liquid adhesive, and I'll first put a little streak down and then cover that. Trying to find my good bold folder. And then just push this up against the edge. You'll see all the glue coming out. And then I use my finger to bend this down and the bone folder to make the glue adhere. And that is done. Looking for my baby wipe. And then we'll do that for the other three flaps. Just push that down, pull it. And by us cutting off that sliver before, you're not going to have any overhang here. And there we go. Now I'm going to take my bone folder. Oops, I see some glue. But I'll take my bone folder and just crease the top, just to give it a nice crisp look. So there is that. I'll go ahead and do the other one in a second. First I will do the hinge because it's going to be a little bit different. So to cover the hinge, I'm sorry, it's the spine. To cover the spine, you have a piece of cardstock that's 9 by 5 1/4. The reason it's 9 by 5 1/4 is because it's 1.5 inches on both sides, and then you have room for the 2 1/4. So you'll add 3 inches to the width and 2 inches to the top. So I am going to take, I have a shim that's 1 1/4 and my 1 inch shim. And I'm going to put some score tape on here. Move this out of the way. And I'm just going to put that back on where it came from, and I'll use that for another day. I'll go ahead and burnish this real well. And then peel it off. Pull this back. I'll make sure this is pushed up against the side and the top. The shims are in place. And then I'll just go ahead and place this so it is right up against it. Burnish it real well. And then we do something a little different with this. Let's go ahead and find our edges. And let's fold so we find our rectangles. Okay, and then let's go ahead and trim off the rectangles. And in this case, we're not going to fold the sides. We're just going to do the top. Whoops, first what we're going to do is pull this and trim. Okay, now we're going to glue the top and the bottom. And we'll just let that sit for a little bit. And I'll go ahead and cover the other chipboard piece off camera. And now we're going to make the hinge for the book. So my cardstock is 8.5 by 6 3/8. I want it a little bit smaller, just 1/8 of an inch smaller than my pages, which are 6 1/4. So we're going to score in sets of 2, and then we'll have a gusset. So we'll start at 2, 2.5, 3. So that's my set of 2, and then we'll do 3. So the gusset. So 3 3/8. 3 7/8, 4 3/8, 4 3/4, 5 1/4, 5 3/4, 6 1/4. I'm sorry, 6 1/8, 6 5/8, 7 1/8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of 1/2 inch hinges. Okay, so I know it's black, but you guys can still see that, right? All right, I'm grabbing 2 sizes of score tape. I'm grabbing 1/4 inch and 3/8. So I did not turn this paper over, so the indentations are on the top, the bumps are on the bottom, bumps are facing down. So for each of these 4 1/2-inch groupings, we're going to put a piece of score tape matching. So let me show you, because that's not described very well. So I'm putting one piece here. Actually, let me zoom in a little. Okay, so there's the 1/2-inch. Let's start from the bottom. So there's a 1/2-inch, 1/2-inch, and the gusset. We're going to put a piece of the 1/4-inch tape to meet at the center of those 2 1/2 inches. So there, another one here, and it's okay if this doesn't go all the way to the edge, and if it goes over a little bit, that's okay too. And now let's find the other 2 1/2-inch sections and put a piece right where it will meet. And then here's the 3rd grouping of the 1/2-inch pieces. And this one I already did, but we'll do one more so they meet. Okay? So that is the top. Now we're going to flip it over. And we're going to identify the gussets. So the gussets are the 3/8 of an inch piece. So we're going to take the 3-inch score tape, and on this one you want to go to the edge. So I'm going to go right there. I'm going to grab my ruler and place it here and rip it. So here's the next gusset. Just try to stay in between the scores that you made. Oops. Okay, and we're going to burnish in a little bit. Now you can either use the 1/4-inch or the 3/8, and I'm almost out of the 3/8, so I'm going to save that. So I'm going to put a 1/4-inch piece. We need to fold the hinge together, and I need it to stick, but it doesn't have to go all the way to the top, as long as it sticks on the bottom. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. But you take the score tape and put it closest to the gusset. So I'll do that for all 4 sets of hinges. Just, we need one piece of tape for the set of hinges, and this is the bottom of the 4th hinge. Okay, and now I want some score tape to hold this in the book. So this is when I'll go back to the 3, so I'll put it on what I call the wing. So I'll put a piece there and a piece there, and that finishes up my score tape. And now we'll take a bone folder and burnish real well. And I'll grab my scissors and just trim any that's coming over. Okay, all right, so now we're turning it back over to the side that's got the 1/4-inch. I'm going to back off on my zoom a little bit. All right, so we've got these 4 sets, and we're going to take the paper and fold it in the center of those 2 1/4-inch pieces and burnish it. All right, so you can see there's a slight bend to the paper, but to make sure that these 2 pieces stick together, I'm gonna put it down on the flat surface, pull with my fingers, hold with my thumb so it makes a mountain. And then I'm going to pinch these two together. Maybe fold it back and forth. Then do it to the next one. If this one goes loose, that's okay. Pull it, grab it, bend it a couple times. All right, so it's not adhered, but we're training it on how we want it to go. All right, so now we know we've got 4 mountains. We're going to turn it over gently. I don't want to flatten it out. And the piece of score tape that's in those mountains on one of those 1/2-inch pieces, we're going to pull off the backing on it. All right, now we'll turn it over again gently because I don't want the adhesive to stick to the bottom. Now I'm going to pull these together again, and they will stick because the adhesive will keep them sticking. So now we've got our hinge system. Now let's go ahead and burnish it. Fold them one way, turn them the other, burnish it again. Do it a couple of times till they're used to going back and forth, because this is what's going to help the pages go back and forth. Okay, now I'll pull them face up again, and I'm going to just trim, and we'll zoom in again. So I want to trim just this 1/4-inch piece, just like that. So do that to all 4 on one side. And turn it over and do it to all 4 on the other. Now I know this one, the score tape didn't go to the edge. That's okay. Just pretend it's there and trim it. Okay, so we are done with the hinge. Let's put that aside and put the covers together. Okay, here is my spine. I'm going to turn it over, make sure that we still can see the edge, and I'm going to take some score tape. I'm just taking my 1/4-inch and putting it about a 1/4-inch away from where the paper is folded on both sides of the spine. Let's burnish that. And I'm going to peel off one of the sides, the backing, and take my liquid glue, and I am going to put it so it's still about 1/8 of an inch away from that fold. And I'm going to put some there also. And I'm going to line this up on my scoreboard. And I'm taking one of my covered 7x7 pieces, and I'm going to pull it down till it lines up with the fold. Turn it over. And so there we go with that. I'm going to use this. So I'm using the scoreboard just as a straight edge to line up things. And it works really nicely for that. So again with the glue, and there. So I'm going to make sure this is lined up. And this piece should actually pop up when you've got it situated right. All right. And there is our cover, but it's a little wobbly and we're going to take care of that. We're going to take this piece that says to cover spine. I'm going to take a little bit of this I'm going to just lightly cut this, peel this piece off. It is probably 1 3/4 inches. I'm going to center it on this piece. Actually, can I put, yeah, I'll center it on here. And if there's any excess, which there is on this, trim it off. So I'm going to take off. There's just a little bit showing. Make sure it's burnished well. Peel that off. And I'm also going to add glue. And I'll turn that over and I'm going to try to center it and make sure the bottom is lined up real well. And then the top is. I'm going to burnish where that score tape was first. And make sure you find the crease where the book folds and bend the paper a little bit. But then make sure the glue is adhered and let it dry. When it's all dry, then you can bend it and work it a little bit more. Okay. So let's pretend that's dry. Now I'm going to take my hinge. Well, first I'll dry fit it. I'm going to see where it's going to fit here. So this book is 7 inches tall. This is 3 3/8 tall. So there's going to be room to center it. You want to center it side to side from the creases on the hinge to the top and the bottom. I like to have more room in the top just in case I have any tags or anything that peeks out over the pages than I do the bottom. You can center it exactly if you want, but I like to have a little more room on the top. So I'm going to peel off my backing of the score tape. And knowing exactly where I was going to put it, I'm going to eyeball it gently, place it down. I'll take my finger and just start in the center, then turn the page and burnish with my finger, then turn again and go outwards from the center. And now these don't have any adhesive, so I'm going to just grab some glue and make sure that's adhered, and I'll do the same with this side. and I'll burnish. I'm not really worried about the glue because my pages will cover all of this. But there we go. Now again, before we play around with it, I'm going to let this dry real well. But knowing me, I'm going to take a pencil and make sure I know which way is up. That way when I put the pages in or all the page features, I'll just make sure I have everything going in the proper direction. So this is done. We're going to put this aside, let it dry real well, and go ahead and grab the base pages front and back. Alright, so what you're going to have are 4 pieces of each, one 6 1/4 by 7 1/4, and another 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. These we'll put aside, and we'll grab 6 1/4 by 7. And we're going to place it in the scoreboard, score 1/2 inch, rotate it all the way around, and score again. So do that with all 4 pieces. Okay, now we have these with the score lines. We're going to take and miter all 4 corners of all 4 pieces. If you just go like this, your scissors will stop at where the score line is. So let's do that to all 4 pieces. And taking your bone folder, I'm going to turn it upside down and fold into the bump and burnish. And then we'll take our base pages and I put the base pages in between the folds. I'll pull one up, add some glitter glue. Make sure the top and sides are even. And then we'll pull that one down. And do that. So do that for all 4 pieces. now you have tubes. And we're going to take our tubes and take our book. And this has dried, so we'll go ahead and bend that. And take off the adhesive backing on the hinge that is furthest away from you. I like to start in the back of the book. I'm going to grab glue, doesn't have to be a perfect line, but on the very top point of the hinge. And then we'll put this over the hinge. And don't bring it down all the way to the bottom, just go just a little bit past the score tape, so you'll have almost 1/4 inch showing. And then when you burnish, make sure you burnish where that glue is, so that way it sort of shuts the pages of the book. I'll peel off that one. Add another page. I'm going to pull up the other one and line it up, just making sure the pages are even and level. And there we have our book. See how the spine looks nice and clean? And it's got 4 pages. And now I'll show you how to do the front cover, the back cover, and the add-ons to the pages. Okay, and now I'm going to go through the elements to alter the pages of the book. And here's a hint. If you're trying to go fast, go ahead and cut these in the beginning, label them in some way that it makes sense to you, and that way you can just score everything at once and then add everything to the book. So first we'll need, for the inside front page, the pocket, so that's going to be 8 1/8 by 4 1/2. The inside front page flap, 7 1/8 by 6. You will need 4 of these, the hidden pocket page, the little inserts that's going to come out of the hidden pocket. So 4 of them, 9 by 6. And then on the back of the pages, you'll need 4 of these for the pockets, 7 1/4 by 3 1/2. To add an additional page, you'll need 4, I should write that down, 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. And in the front inside cover and the back inside cover, I have a little booklet. So you'll need 2 of these, 2 each, of 8 1/2 by 6 1/4 and 8 by 6 1/4. And for the back inside cover, I just have a simple pocket, so 8 by 4 1/2. Now additionally, I did cut photomats. To make it go quick, I just cut them 1/4 inch bigger than the photo, so 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. And I don't put any paper or anything. You could stamp it with white ink if you're using black, saying place photo here, or whatever you want to do. But I don't. So you'll need 8 of those. But an alternative is, if you want to put on some designer paper or plain colored cardstock bigger than the photo, you'll want the mats 6 1/2 by 4 1/2, and then you'll cut for each one you make of these 6 1/4 by 4 1/4 in colored, you know, whether it's designer paper or plain colored cardstock to put on, so then your photo has that colored mat on top of the photo mat. So however many of those you want. I have 4 of those. And then another alternative is if you have cut-aparts and you want to make flaps on the pages with the cut-aparts, it depends. So I have 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. So these I would score at 1/2 inch to put the 3 by 4 cut-apart right there. But if you have ones that go this way and you want to score it there and put the 3 by 4 cut apart there, you'll want that 3 1/4 by 4 3/4, and that's however many of those cut aparts you have. And that's it for the cutting guide. Now we're going to get ahead and start on putting these additional elements in the book. All right, so let's work on the front inside page. We're going to grab our scoreboard, and for the flap we're going to put the long side to the side, short side to the top, and score at 1/2 inch and 5/8. For the front inside page pocket, we're going to score on the both short sides actually, 1/2 inch and 5/8. I'm going to rotate it and do the same, 1/2 inch and 5/8. And then we're going to score on one long side, which will be the bottom. So same thing, 1/2 inch and 5/8. And now we're going to miter the corners, and when we miter this, we're going to miter up to the first score line. Okay, don't go to the second score line. If you do, it's not a big deal. But let's grab our scissors and miter up to that score line, up to the first score line. All right, so that front inside page pocket is done, and for the flap we'll do the same. And then the front inside page flap, I'm going to round the 2 bottom corners. Okay, now let's grab the book. Well, first let's burnish. So we'll take a bone folder and burnish both lines. And on this one we'll burnish all the lines on 3 sides. And now I realize I should have mitered the corners to the second score line. So I'm going to do that now. There we go. So I'm going to add some liquid adhesive. You could use whatever you want. This tip is clogged. To the bottom, and I'll put the bottom, putting it close to the left hand side to the edge of the book. I don't want to get into, I don't want it to impinge on the hinge. You don't want it to impinge on the hinge. So I'm going to try to go down as close to the bottom with that last score line as I can. So the bottom is equal to the bottom of the book. And then I'll go ahead and just glue this down. I'm going to use my bone folder just to make sure it's in there pretty tight. Make sure that that little 1/8 of an inch is straight up and down, and we're good to go. And then I'll go ahead and put the top flap in. And you can make this flap shorter if you want to. I just wanted to have enough room for a magnet to close this. A lot of times I'll use those, you know, the 2-circle, I call it the library style closure. But in this case, I just wanted a magnet to close it. All right, make sure that's straight. And we're good. All right, now let's take the hidden pocket pages. So there should be 4 of them, and they're 9 by 6. And you're simply going to score each of them at 6. Now, if you want, you can decorate this with an edge. If so, I would cut this 1/2 inch bigger, or however big your decorative edge is. So instead of 9 by 6, go 9.5 by 6, just to allow for cutting that, or just leave it that way. It'll just be a shorter flap. So then it goes in the pocket just like that. So I'll put these in the book just so they get off of my desk. So some people decorate the pages and then add them to the book. I like to put the book together and then put the decorations on it. And the reason I do that is because I don't always, I like it to flow. And so that way I feel like I get a better flow to it. All right, now I have pockets next, but we're going to put these pockets away. We're going to take the 4 additional pages that are 6 1/4 by 6 1/4, and we're going to score each of them on one side at 1/2 inch. And then we'll miter the corners. And we'll fold and burnish the flaps, the folder. Oops, that one did not come out straight. So these are all going to go on the back of each page. There's the front of the page, here's the back. So I'm just going to simply add glue. And put it up right against where the page, right against the edge of the page. Making sure it's equal to the side. So because we made these 6 1/4 and we scored it at 1/2 inch, it's going to be smaller than the page, and that's okay with me. Now if you wanted it the same size as the page, you'll make it 6 3/4. But I wanted people to know it's a page to open. Sometimes they miss pages because they don't see, so that's why I made it that size. So let's get these all in the book. I'm making sure it's lined up here and also lined up on the bottom of the page. Okay, now we're done with that. Let's go to the pockets. So the pockets are 7 1/4 by 3 1/2. We'll grab our scoreboard and score 1/2 inch on 3 sides. So 2 short sides and 1 long side. Did I grab 2? No, I'm missing a pocket. Yep, I'll have to cut one. Okay, and let's miter all 3 corners on those. And fold and burnish all score lines. All right, and then we're going to put this in the book, and it's going to go on the back of each base page. So there, here's the flap we had just added, and it's going to go on the other side. That's why you have to add the flap before you add this page, or this pocket, or else you won't be able to open the page. let's work on the back pocket. Simple pocket page. All you're going to do is score on 3 sides at 1/2 inch. Miter the corners. Fold and burnish. You're an old pro at this now, aren't you? And add to the page. And I make sure it's lined up with the right side of the book and that it doesn't impede the closing of the back page. And so there we are. Alright, so let's grab our Accordion Photomat pieces and the scoreboard. Let's start with the 8.5 by 6 1/4. We're going to simply score at 4 1/4. So you'll have 2 sides 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, so 4 by 6 photos will fit. On the 9 by 6, you're going to score at 4 1/4, 8.5. And then we're going to miter the corner. And I'm going to flip it over because I like the bump to be on the top to add my liquid adhesive. And I'm going to just take this and go right up to the bump and burnish it. And then we'll go ahead and fold. So you have an accordion to put 8 photos on that are 4 by 6. Okay, and do that with the other one. And so here's your book. Let me do a quick walkthrough. I know it might be hard to see because it's black, but here we've got the front and side flap that opens up with the accordion page inside. And as I said, I'm going to use a magnet here, but you also could use the 2 circles or even a swing tab. Here's the first page with the photomat that comes out. You turn that page and there is the pocket with a photomat. And I said we needed 8. We really only need 4. And then here's the added page that we put in. You could round the corners here if you wanted to. And then we're back to the hidden pocket with the little flap, which is great for journaling or small pictures or just to show the decorative paper. So I am going to do another video So I will do another video showing you how I decorated the book. And here's the back page, and oops, this is where my other accordion will go. So there we go. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button real quick. There will be another video in the playlist with the walkthrough the album, and I'd love to see what you make. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.